Hello YouTube, this is Cloud9 Nerd. Welcome to Card Choices, the video series where we can discuss my current card choices for the meta. If there are a few cards that you wish to discuss or if I make any changes, I'll have an update video and this way we can proceed to become better players. So without further ado, here we go, Zing traps. Now, the first trap I want to talk about is Creation, and I don't feel like I have to say much about this card. It's a staple at 3. You need to run 3. Whenever your monster gets destroyed, you special summon another Zing, and that if it was a Zing, basically you get 2 monsters out, and you keep expanding that way. Lately I've been having a tough time because of Denko Seika. You can't flip this over, and the beauty of this card is flipping it over during the damage step. And with Denko Seika out, it's a bit tough. Denko Seika can't really do much to your monsters. Pull out is 1800 defense, and you have Swanee, which is 1900 beater. And even with Beyond only being 1600, I do run a Lance and the Chalices, so I mean Denko Seika is pretty easy to run over. But a lot of times when Denko Seika comes out, it's because the Shadal player is going to OTK, at least if he's a good player, he's going to OTK that turn. Other than that, this is a prime target for things like Wing Blast and Fire Lake, and getting this Wing Blast hurts a lot, especially if you don't get to resolve its effect. So it's really hard right now playing traps, and that's one of the reasons why I feel like Zings aren't seeing success, because they are very dependent on traps. So, but you have to run 3 of these. It's a really good card. Plus, worst comes to worst, you could pitch this for Jaito and get a Synchro on board. So the next trap card I want to talk about is Brutality, an amazing trap card. I don't see too many Zing players running it, much less 3 of them. I do not understand why you wouldn't want to play this card. It is a limited removal on crack. I mean, being able to have a 4000 defense Bixie turn 1 is amazing. Nothing is going to get over that. Plus, you get a Bixie search. So even if they can't destroy your Bixie with a Denko Seika or a Little Dragon or Burning Abyss, whatever it is, this means you're going to get your search off your Bixie. A lot of times that was the problem that I was having with my deck. I have a Bixie on board and my opponent couldn't run it over. But with this, you do big damage and you get your search off. Plus, your attacking monsters, beyond Swanee and Tautai, they just go to incredible heights. And if it's really good. It has a lot of surprise factor. Your opponent might not be expecting it for whatever reason. They don't have back row removal, and they'll go on Dante 25 and they say, I can run over this Swanee really easy. They could be trying to OTK you in Shadal's. If they see that they have enough damage on board, they might not banish with BLS. And you flip this on them, and I mean, there's not much they can do. They take a huge chunk of damage. And I mean, it just catches them off guard. And this card, I feel like this card makes the Klee matchup so easy, because if you resolve even one of these, you hinder their life points, and that's less scout searches. That's you instantly put a clock on the game where they have to beat you without so many scout searches. So resolving 1 is amazing. You do 2, you're almost always gonna game the Klee player. The only bad thing about this card is that it is a battle trap, so there's a lot of night beams and MSTs running around, but I'd rather this get hit than my Creation, so I don't mind too much. But yeah, Zing Brutality, it's an amazing card. The next trap I want to talk about is Call the Haunted. Now, I've cut this card from my current build, but I'm going to talk about it because I ran it at Anaheim. I ran it at 3. And when I talk about this card, I'm also talking about the new trap card that came out in this last set. It was also like a Call of the Haunted card, Oasis of Dragon Souls. It was a rare. And back then, I really loved this card. You flip it over, chain it to an MST or something, and you get a search off. It helped you, get reuse resources from the grave. But I cut it mostly because all the MSTs, Night Beams, and Vanities floating around. If you want to start a play with this card, chances are your opponent's gonna flip over Vanities, or they can Fire Lake, Wing Blast, and also Denko Seika is a card. So this card just wasn't helping me out, so I had to completely cut it. Now the next 2 cards I want to talk about are Skill Drain and Breakthrough Skill. And I've been going back and forth between these cards in the main deck, mostly because I'm not sure what to do with it. There's not that many. I don't know that many Klee players, but This card actually hurts in the Klee matchup. You know, all the Klees are at their full attack. I know this doesn't get a switch off, but if you can't put a Synchro on board and they have a 2800 beater, the match does become more difficult. Whereas these cards help against Shaddolls and Burning Abyss. So I'm very iffy. I've been switching these out back and forth, 2 and 2, or maybe doing 1 and 2 or 1 and 1. Breakthrough skill is great, especially because you can activate it twice. It really helps out, especially against Shaddolls, you know, being able to negate a Winda or a Construct, so you can get over them relatively easily. And it helps against the Clifford matchup too. I always prefer this over these in the Clifford matchup, just to negate whether it's a shell or the disc coming out. So I don't know. I've been cutting these back and forth, like I mentioned before in my spells video. I've also started running chalices, and I kind of prefer chalices. So I don't know if I'll do 3-2, 2-2, or 2-1, whatever the case may be. I'll keep you guys updated, because this is it's almost down to player preference, I guess, to see whatever you play against most. Because if you play against more Shaddolls and Burning Abyss, I'd definitely say run the skill drains. But against Klees, you just have a harder time. So I prefer to run the breakthroughs right now. I'm running 2 breakthroughs, and I'm not even sure if I want to side them, but I probably will, just because it makes the other matchups a lot easier. And this card is amazing against Rogue. You know, stops Tellarknights in their tracks, completely stops them if they can't get it off the board. So it's a good card overall, but definitely maining the 2 breakthroughs for now. Next card I want to talk about is Needle Sealing. I believe at Anaheim I ran 3 of them, and I've cut it down to 1. But I definitely want to bump this up, because it is amazing in the Clifford matchup. It is amazing in the Shaddol matchup. Those 2 decks are, they always want to OTK. They want to put a lot of pressure on board. And if you could Needle Sealing, especially before they Snatch Steal or they enemy controller, it doesn't put them in a bad spot, but it does put you in a slightly better position than they are. And I feel like that's really good, Really good defense card, wipes the board all the time. And if your monsters are face up, they float. So hardly any downside. Against Burning Abyss is not that bad, because a lot of times you start off with 1 monster. If you do resolve a creation, you have 2 monsters, and a lot of times you'll start with double Dante or double Dante in a Burning Abyss. So this card they have no problem getting this live, and it's especially good against the Stellar Knight matchup. A lot of times they go Vega, Altair, Deneb, and all you need is 1 monster, and this thing is live. It blows up their whole board. They get the search off, but you leave them with an empty board. So this is a card that I might bump up to 2. I don't like it at 3. I draw it too much, and standard Klee opening play is 1 monster and a sacrifice, and this card's not that good when each of you only control 1 monster. But I'm definitely going to bump this up to 2. It's been really, really helpful, and I definitely want to see more of this card. The next card that I want to talk about is Bottomless. Out of all the traps, this is the one trap I haven't cut, because it's so good against Klees, and if you Bottomless the right card in Shaddolls, it makes the matchup a lot easier. I know that Danko Seika's around, and you can't Bottomless Danko Seika, but generally against Shaddolls, I side out some traps and probably throw in like an extra breakthrough or my skill drains or chalices or whatever. Because of Danko Seika, you flip it during their draw or standby phase. A lot of times they like to go second, so you're going to have stuff set before they do. And getting rid of the Danko Seika is crucial, but generally I take this out. I do leave this in for Klees and Burning Abyss, because against Burning Abyss, they don't have too many beaters in their extra deck. Against your deck, against the Zings, they kind of have to rely on the extra deck. So, being able to take away an extra deck card away from them is great. Not necessarily Acid Golem, but something else, like Nightmare Shark or something. So, it's a good card. It's one of the few that I'm not cutting, but definitely cutting other cards. Moving on, we have Torrential Tribute. I want to cut this card, but I can't, because it's just so good in this deck. Getting your searches off is like a slower version of Dark Hole. Again, when you're about to get OTK'd, if there's no Denko or it's against Burning Abyss, you flip this over. You're always putting your opponent is not in a bad position, but you're in a slightly better one because your monsters are going to float and you're going to have some board presence. I know against Burning Abyss you can still have board presence, but your board presence is better because it's going to allow you to get into a synchro play, and you go into a boxing and you completely eliminate their board presence. Putting them in an even worse position. So I'm not a big fan of this card. I want to cut it, but I can't. It's just really, really good in Yang Zings. Next we have Compulse. This is one of my favorite traps ever, but I have to cut this card. It is not good at all. You don't want to Compulse Cleese after they equip or anything like that. When they pendulum, they have a lot of ways of getting the monster back out on the board. And against Shaddolls, if it was a special summon monster, it's only really good against their fusions, and even then it's not that great because they could just chain L Shaddol fusion. And Burning Abyss, it's not that good either. I mean, it's okay to compulse, something that's not a tour guide. You leave them with the tour guide on board, but compulsing a Dante isn't good. Compulsing much of their monsters aren't good because their materials are going to get their effects, and basically you wasted a card because you used one to get one off their board, but they're going to have more. So, I mean, it just doesn't advance your game state. I cut this card. I don't see too much play for it, so this card is out. And the last card I want to talk about is an interesting card, Wiretap. I've seen a lot of Yang Zing players play this in threes, and I've never played this card. I don't want to play this card. I haven't tested it or anything. I don't like this card. Counter trap cards, it's really, really slow. The only thing I'd want to, the only trap I want to hit with this is like a Wing Blast or a Karma Cut. Fire Lake, not so much because, if they target one of my monsters, my monsters float. And Vanity's Emptiness, I'd rather MST it or MST something else to get it off the board. I just don't find, that much use for this card, especially now with Denko running around. Shaddolls aren't really running traps, and I know Cleese and Burning Abyss are cutting their trap lineup so they don't fall into the Denko trap. So this card, I haven't seen too many Yang Zing deck lists, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be cutting this all together. I've never run it, and I never will. So that's it for my traps. Tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment down below, and I'll go ahead and have a summary about this deck up soon. And that's it for Yang Zing, guys. Subscribe for more. I'll have more decks. I'll have Cliff Arts up, and I'll have Stellar Knights up. And soon, in February, when the Necros come out, I'll have Necros up. So subscribe, stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.